Rare coin collecting. Discover real value and history in every coin.
Most people would never imagine a single Jefferson nickel from the 1950s could be worth over $12,000. It sounds exaggerated. It sounds unrealistic. And yet this exact nickel is still being found today, quietly sitting in old collections and forgotten rolls, because almost no one understands what actually makes this year so dangerous. This is the 1956 D Jefferson nickel, and its value has nothing to do with silver, war, or flashy errors. It comes from pressure, shortcuts, and one of the most misunderstood strike problems in the entire Jefferson nickel series. By 1956, the United States was deep into post-war expansion. Vending machines, parking meters, payphones, and transit systems were everywhere, and nickels were moving non-stop. The Denver Mint was under constant pressure to produce massive quantities as fast as possible. Speed mattered. Perfection did not. Dies were pushed far past their ideal lifespan, and strike pressure was often insufficient to fully bring up fine details. That production pressure is the heart of this coin's story. Most people believe the value of a 1956 D Jefferson nickel comes from repunched mint marks or minor varieties. That's the misdirection. Yes, repunched mint marks exist for this year, and yes, they're collectible. But most examples bring only modest premiums. They are not what creates 4- or 5-figure prices. The real rarity hides in plain sight on the reverse. The true prize is a 1956 D Jefferson nickel struck with full steps on Monticello. At the base of Monticello are horizontal steps. On most 1956 D nickels, those steps are flat, merged, or partially missing. Not because of circulation, but because the coins were struck that way from worn dies with weak pressure. Even coins that appear bright and well-preserved often never had full steps to begin with. That's what makes this year so deceptive. Now imagine a coin struck early from a fresh die. Proper pressure. Clean metal flow. All 5 and sometimes 6 steps appear fully separated, sharp, and continuous from end to end. No breaks, no bridging, no weakness. The coin looks ordinary to the untrained eye, so it passes inspection and enters circulation or gets set aside by chance. And that's where the odds collapse. Full steps are incredibly fragile. The slightest contact can destroy them. One slide across a counter, one trip through a vending machine, and they're gone forever. That's why genuine full steps examples from Denver in 1956 are brutally rare. For decades, collectors misunderstood this. They assumed weak steps were caused by wear. They weren't. They were born that way. As a result, truly sharp examples were overlooked, mishandled, or spent because no one was checking Monticello closely enough. You don't need advanced tools to identify one. Flip the coin over and focus on the steps at the base of Monticello. They must be clearly separated lines, not shadows or blobs. Any break eliminates the designation. Then look at Jefferson's hair and cheek. Strong detail supports a strong strike. The coin should weigh about 5.0 grams, show the normal copper-nickel color, and should not react to a magnet. Collectors chase these coins because they represent perfection in a year where perfection almost never happened. Scarcity combined with condition and a known weak strike, mint creates intense demand. Certified 1956 D Jefferson nickels with full steps have sold for $4,500, $7,000, and in top population, near-perfect examples, over $12,000. Condition changes everything. Certification changes everything. One broken step can erase thousands of dollars instantly, and every year these coins become harder to find. Circulation destroys step detail. Improper handling damages surfaces. Cleaning wipes out grading potential entirely. Coins that could have been exceptional are lost forever, and the population will never meaningfully increase. One warning must be taken seriously. Never clean this coin. Cleaning removes microscopic metal, softens step definition, and leaves hairlines graders immediately reject. A cleaned coin can drop from 5 figures to face value in seconds. What looks like harmless improvement can permanently erase its potential. So if a 1956 D Jefferson nickel ever comes across your path, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Turn it over. Study the steps. That single detail has created one of the most elusive modern Jefferson nickels in existence, and this is only 1 year. There are others like it, still hiding quietly in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows exactly where to look. Most people would never believe a single Roosevelt dime from the 1950s could be worth over $10,000. It sounds impossible. It feels exaggerated. And yet this exact dime is still being found today, quietly sitting in collections and old rolls, because almost nobody understands what actually makes this year so dangerous. This is the 1955 D Roosevelt dime, and its value has nothing to do with hype and everything to do with how the Denver Mint quietly failed to produce quality coins that year. By 1955, the United States economy was booming. Cash was moving faster than ever. Vending machines, parking meters, payphones, and transit systems were devouring dimes daily. The Denver Mint was under relentless pressure to produce enormous quantities at speed. There was no war emergency, no metal shortage, just volume. And when speed becomes the priority, precision becomes optional. That pressure defines this coin. Most people think the value comes from the fact that it's silver. That's the trap. Yes, the 1955 D dime is struck in 90% silver. Yes, silver Roosevelt dimes are collectible. But millions were made, and most are worth only a small premium over melt value. Silver alone does not create rarity here. The real value hides in a detail most people never check. The true rarity is a 1955 D Roosevelt dime struck with full bands on the torch. On the reverse of the coin, the torch has horizontal bands wrapped around it. On most 1955 D dimes, those bands are flat, merged, or incomplete. Not from wear, but from the moment they were struck. Dies were overused. Strike pressure was weak. The Denver Mint was notorious for producing soft details in the mid-1950s, and the torch bands were the first detail to disappear. That means most 1955 D dimes were born incomplete. Now imagine the opposite. A coin struck early from a fresh die. Proper pressure, clean metal flow. The torch bands appear fully separated, sharp and complete. No breaks, no flatness, no weakness. The coin looks normal to the untrained eye, so it passes inspection and enters circulation or gets set aside accidentally. That's where the odds collapse. Full bands are incredibly fragile. One slide across a counter, one pass through a vending machine, and they're gone forever. That's why surviving examples are so rare, especially from Denver in 1955. For decades, collectors misunderstood this. They assumed flat bands came from circulation. They didn't. They were struck that way. So truly sharp examples were overlooked, mishandled, or spent because no one was checking the torch closely enough. You don't need expert tools to identify one. Flip the coin over and look directly at the torch. Focus on the horizontal bands across the center. They must be fully separated, crisp, and unbroken from end to end. Any merging kills the designation. Then look at Roosevelt's hair and cheek. Strong detail supports a strong strike. The coin should weigh about 2.5 grams, show normal silver tone, and should not react to a magnet. Collectors chase these because they represent perfection in a year where perfection almost never happened. Scarcity plus condition plus a known weak strike mint creates explosive demand. Certified 1955 D Roosevelt dimes with full bands have sold for $3,500, $6,800, and in top population, near-perfect examples, over $10,000. Condition changes everything. Certification changes everything. One tiny detail can change the value by thousands, and every year they become harder to find. Circulation destroys band detail instantly. Mishandling ruins surfaces. Cleaning erases grading potential. Coins that could have been exceptional are lost permanently. The population will never meaningfully increase. One warning must be taken seriously. Never clean this dime. Cleaning removes metal, softens microscopic detail, and leaves hairlines graders reject instantly. A cleaned coin can drop from 5 figures to melt value in seconds. What looks like harmless polishing can destroy everything. So if a 1955 D Roosevelt dime ever crosses your path, don't assume it's ordinary. Turn it over. Check the torch. That single detail has created one of the most elusive and valuable Roosevelt dimes in existence, and this is only 1 year. There are others just like it, quietly hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows exactly what to look for.